Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Tennessee Board of Regents. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the Tennessee Board of Regents, Chancellor John Morgan. And Chancellor Morgan, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
And to tell you how delighted we are to have an opportunity to talk to you and to talk about the Tennessee Board of Regents. I know a lot of folks don't understand the makeup of the Tennessee Board of Regents and exactly what it means in higher education, the Tennessee Board of Regents. But let's have you to do that. But during this first segment, let's talk about John Morgan, and to have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of bringing you to us this morning. And then we'll have that first break, and then we'll talk about the Tennessee Board of Regents.
All right, great. And again, thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to be here. I'm a career state government employee. When I went to college at Austin Peay State University, after I graduated there with a degree in political science and history, spent a couple of years at Louisiana State University doing graduate work, but then came back to Tennessee in 1976, really looking to go to work. And I was very fortunate to get hired working for the Legislative Fiscal Review Committee. It's still there, still doing what they did back in 1976 in large part. But really spent most of my career after that in state government. Interestingly, in roles that had more to do with financial analysis and financial management than political science, which was my academic major. So I worked in the Fiscal Review Committee for the legislature, then worked for the state treasurer, worked for the Department of Finance Administration, and then finally in the mid-'80s ended up in the state comptroller's office. In Tennessee, the comptroller has a lot of duties, but the primary duty of the comptroller is the state auditor, audit state and local governments, and spent several years in the comptroller's office, left for a very short period of time and went to work for Third National Bank for about a year and a half, but then came back and was fortunate to be offered the job as executive assistant to the comptroller, working directly under a fellow named Bill Snodgrass. You've probably heard of Bill Snodgrass. And I was his deputy or executive assistant for 10 years. And then in 1999, Bill Snodgrass kind of retired as state comptroller after having served for 22, I guess, consecutive 2-year terms. He decided to step down, and I was very fortunate that the legislature elected me as comptroller in January of 1999. And I was able to serve in that role for five terms. Then in 2009, legislature changed character a bit. We had election outcomes that changed the majority control of the legislature. And not surprisingly, they selected someone else to be comptroller. But I was very fortunate that Phil Bredesen at that point was looking for a deputy to the governor. So I literally was able to walk across the hall in the Capitol from the comptroller's office to the governor's office and spent almost 2 years working directly with Phil Bredesen. During that time, Governor Bredesen and others, members of the legislature, spent a lot of time focusing on education issues. And in October of 2010, I was truly blessed to be able to have the opportunity to become the Chancellor of the Tennessee Board of Regents.
Yeah. And so you bring to us this morning a lot of information about the financial situation of higher education.
I have been involved in state finance for most of my career, and now I'm heavily involved in higher education finance.
That's exactly what we want to deal with this morning, Chancellor, because we believe that there are so many problems that are facing institutions of higher education, and we want to find out exactly how Tennessee is doing in reference to that, because I think being a person involved in finance, and you have some idea about what it takes to move an educational institution forward.
Some of the challenges we've had in the past and some of the opportunities perhaps that we'll have in the future. Absolutely.
Very good, and I think we've got about 50 seconds here before the segment end, but basically that's what we want to talk about this morning, to give you an opportunity. Why don't you say a few statements in reference to what the the Tennessee Board of Regents.
The Tennessee Board of Regents is the 6th largest system of higher education, public higher education in the country. We include 6 universities, 13 community colleges, and 27 technology centers. Every public higher education institution in Tennessee that doesn't have UT in front of it is part of our system. We have, any given time we have, or any given year, we'll have 210,000 students.
That's a large number of students.
It is,
and of course,
big
Chancellor,
enterprise.
we're going to take this first commercial break, and then we'll get back and have you to elaborate upon those students and some of the other things associated with higher education.
Be happy to.
And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.